All right, 6.3a. Last week, which for some of you was not last week, but again, in our last lessons, we introduced a process called substitution. In this process, we identified a variable that was alone, and then we substituted for it and solved. How would we use substitution with the following systems? Should be systems. That's not alone, that's not alone, that's not alone, that's not alone. Nope, 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 and nope. And so we can't really put a box around anything because there's nothing that is all by itself, and so therefore we cannot really substitute unless we took this one and turned it into something else by moving the 9y. But again, that is a lot of steps. And yes, some teachers ask you to do that, but remember that I like to teach you for common sense purposes. I'm not going to have you do something that I would not naturally do for myself because it's really an unnecessary step. We would have, again, the option of solving for x in the first system, but again, it's reserved for true algebra students, and I don't even say true algebra students. It's reserved for people who just like to torture themselves, honestly, because there's no need to do that. We could use our experience with literal equations to solve for x or y in a second system. Again, you could take this thing and say, you know, I'm going to get y alone, so I'm going to do, actually I'm going to get x alone, so I'll do 2x equals 11 plus 3y, and then I'm going to divide everything by 2, and then I get a bunch of ugly fractions. And no, there's no need for that. So again, there's no need for that. Just today what we're going to do is look at a better way to do it. Unfortunately, it's going to take 3 lessons to get you safely ready. Again, it doesn't really take you 3 lessons. I can teach it in 2, but because, again, I moved this to the first semester so that we can actually take our time to get it before we have to actually know it for next semester. So right now you're moving into territory of freebie work, but it does affect your grade, so you do need to make sure you're working. But again, it's pretty much preparing you for the next quarter start so you can be ready for this stuff. So consider the following statement. 2 plus 3 equals 5. That's true, yes? 2 plus 3, that would be 5 equals 5. Okay. If you multiply everything by 4, you get 8 plus 12 equals 20. Is that a true statement? Yes, it is. 8 plus 12 is 20. So notice how multiplying by 4, even though it changed the numbers, it did not change the fact that this is still true. Sorry, I can't spell sometimes. If we were multiplied by a negative sign, that means switch everything. That means this would become negative 2 minus 3 negative 5. Is that true? Negative 2 plus negative 3 is negative 5, and for those of you who did not learn your integers, I will prove it using a calculator. Negative 2 minus 3 is negative 5. So therefore, this did not change it from being true, and this did not change it from being true. So notice again, everything was still true, and that is because we did not break the main rule of algebra. Everything must be treated equally. Remember in algebra solving, if we subtract from the left, we had to subtract from the right. If we add 5 to the left, we must add 5 to the right. If we multiplied by 2 on the left, we had to multiply by 2 on the right. It is all about balance. So as long as we multiply everything in the equation, as long as we switch the sign on everything in the equation, then it just makes it look different. So pretty much we are giving the equation a facelift, but the actual person stays the same. This is still, that equation. It's just opposite signs. This is still that equation, but everything's just been multiplied by 4. So everything is still the same. It just looks different. And so what we're doing here is we are going to use that to solve using what we call elimination. For the sake of consistency, we will only focus on eliminating x. Again, I love when students ask me, can't I eliminate y? Yes, but we'll get to that. And I would say I wouldn't get to that until next year whenever you've mastered solving for x, because it is much easier to do things with one system than it is to have 2 systems in which you now have to choose, and then you haven't really mastered either system. So instead of being great at one system, you're okay at 2 systems, and no, I'm not going to do that. We are going to focus only on x. If you try to solve for y in your homework, you're going to miss it. So x only. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to eliminate x. So write this problem down and then write down whatever explanation steps you need, because I'm not going to write them, but I will say them. You have x plus 9y, you have 4x minus 11y, and we want to eliminate x. And what we're going to do, our goal is to get this to look like that. Well, what's missing is a 4. So what I'm going to do is multiply. Actually, I won't do it that way. So if you were writing this on paper, you have x plus 9y and you have 4x minus 11y. And I think you have to do this on your paper. So on your first, we want to multiply the top by 4. So I will put 4 parentheses x plus 9y. And because that's already a 4, just leave the bottom alone. And this is a system, so they're separated into parts. So there's your first step, which is our initial step, but we want these to match, so we multiply the top by 4. Our next thing we're going to do is distribute. That becomes 4x plus 36y, and leave alone the bottom, which is 4x minus 11y. But what we must do now to make them eliminate is make this opposite. And so what I'm going to do, again, make sure you do it in math, is switch the bottom row. You must switch the bottom row in this. Again, write that down for yourself. If you don't, it's going to mark you wrong. The computers are not marking you wrong. They're simply saying that's not what Mr. Bradley told you to do, and so you're not going to get credit. Switch the bottom row. So we're going to leave the top alone, 4x plus 36y, because that's what this says, and we are going to switch the bottom row. So negative 4x plus 11y. And then what happens there is it's going to say combine your x's, which means that goes away, and this leaves you with 47y. That is your answer for right now. So again, what we did, we wanted our x's to match. We recognized this was missing a 4, so we multiplied by 4. Write your explanations on your parts here off to the side. We then distributed, which is where this came from. We then recognize that 4x plus 4x is not 0, so it doesn't eliminate, so we switch the bottom row again. Make sure it's the bottom row. So we rewrote the top, switched the bottom, and then we added our terms. So that goes away. This leaves us with 47y. Celebrate. You did it. I was going to say, I knew there had to be more. On this one, again, 8x plus 3y, x plus 2y, we need our x's to match. Notice that has an 8, this does not. So what are we going to do, and I'm going to do it from here, is we are going to multiply the bottom one by 8. The top one's fine, it already has an 8, so we need to multiply this by 8. So we put 8 parentheses x plus 2y, and I believe you have to put these in all your boxes if I programmed it right, which I'm pretty sure I did. I just did it a few weeks ago and I don't remember. From there, you leave the top alone because nothing changes, but you distribute the bottom. That becomes 8x plus 16y. Now our numbers are the same, but remember 8 plus 8 is not 0, that's 16, so we need to now switch the bottom row. And again, remember, it will always be the bottom row. So negative 8x minus 16y. From there you add your terms, that goes away, and this makes negative 13y, which is your final answer for today. It is not a tough process, but again, you have to accept the weirdness of it, and you have to just kind of do the steps. Here's the thing, if you're fighting me right now and saying, well, that doesn't make sense, why are we doing that and why are we doing this, you're not going to get it. If you are simply following directions, like if it was a recipe and it said put 5 eggs into the bowl, you don't say, why 5 eggs? Why do I need 5? What if I want 4? You're going to mess up your recipe. If it says put 5 eggs in the bowl, put 5 eggs in the bowl. I am telling you right now, take this thing, multiply by 8, distribute, switch the sign. That's 3 steps. That's the same 3 steps every single time. Because if you look at this, it was step 1, multiply by 4. Step 2, distribute. Step 3, switch to bottom row, got your answer. It is 3 steps that you must make muscle memory, and that's where people have an issue is they don't like muscle memory. They want me to explain why math gets so crazy. I can't explain why it gets crazy. It's life. But anyway, that is what we are doing. Now, there's a different type here, and these aren't tough either. The thing is, it's easier to just simply say, where do 7 and 3 meet, which is 21. I wouldn't even ask that. What I would say is, take this number on the bottom. I'm sorry, I keep wanting to do this on the work like I'm on paper. Take this number on the bottom and multiply it to the top, because that would make it 21. So 3 times 7x plus 5y. Take the number on the top, multiply it to the bottom. 7 times 3x minus 2y. Because now, when you go to distribute, you get 21x plus 15y, and you get 21x minus 14y. But notice how we now have the same x. The steps are very, very repetitive. The steps are very boring, but the steps work every time. Multiply a number to the top to make this 21. Multiply a top number to the bottom to make the bottom number 21. Guess what we do now? We switch the bottom row. So leave the top row alone. switch to bottom row, then add your terms. That goes away, giving us 29y. Again, hopefully you have words over here explaining each step, because it is a very direct process. I am teaching you a process. I am not explaining the background of the process outside of our goal is to make the x's go away. In order to make the x's go away, we must first make them meet. And so in order to make these two meet at 21, I must multiply this by 3. In order to make this 21, I must multiply by 7. I must then distribute to make those numbers what they are, and they have to be opposite to go away. There is your explanation, but again, the general idea to this is multiply your numbers, make them the same, switch to bottom row. And again, it's the same number of boxes as it was up here. Multiply, distribute, combine. Switch and then combine. Multiply, distribute, switch, combine. Over and over and over and over again. However you get this down, once you get it down, you will never miss another elimination question in your life, because it's really not, like, you'll miss it because of small mistakes, but you won't be lost ever again because it's really not that bad of a process. So again, 8 and 9 meet at 72, so I'm going to multiply up the 9. I'm going to multiply down the 8. Again, I'm pretty sure that your computer is going to make you type all this stuff into individual boxes. We then have to distribute 72x, minus 18y, 72x plus 48y, 72, 18, 72, 48. You just got to check your distributive part. That's really the only spot where people mess up. And then again, because now they're the same, we need to switch it. So 72x minus 18y, and then switch negative 72x minus 48y. Those two go away, and this makes negative 66y. Let's make sure. I still got it. But as long as you understand the general focus of this process, you will be fine. Match the x, make the x terms match. That means multiply either the bottom alone, or multiply the top alone, or multiply both. Switch to bottom row. Distribute, then switch to bottom row, then add terms. But that's pretty much it. This homework is going to force you to show all the steps in half of your problems. So I didn't do it all the way through. But again, if you are having issues on one of the ones that don't force you to show work, make sure you send me a picture of your paper so I can help you identify your mistake. I should not at this point be getting emails saying I don't get this, because that's what the video's for. If you don't get it, watch the video again, because that is really where the information is at. There is no magic trick for me to say, okay, you don't get it, well now remember that dragons are real, and then all of a sudden you get it. You have to fight for this stuff, because it's not just supposed to be easy for you. So if you don't get it, go back, watch it with an open mind, take the note again, try the problem ahead. So for example, whenever you watch it again the second time and you get to here, have a piece of paper and work it out, and then compare what you did to what I did. But however it is, the information's in the video. Once you get stuck on a problem, that's where you want to send me your work so I can show you where you're messing up, because you should have some sort of an opinion before you send me that question. And if you don't have an opinion, it's because you didn't get anything out of the video. But again, we are 6 chapters into Algebra 1, which means at this point you are ready. It's just a question of whether you are accepting of the responsibility. So other than that, get good practice so you're ready for tomorrow's advancement, because there is an advancement tomorrow and the next day. But again, if you can do this, you're in great shape. Because just like I said in substitution, if you get to a certain point, you're in good shape. This is a good spot for you to be. If you can get that to negative 66y, then you're pretty much already ready for elimination. I just don't want to go too fast and confuse you. So have a good day, do your best on it, and make sure you answer the question. Good luck.